Yes, sir. Can we get you to get a mic, please, sir?
Yes, sir. I just recently ordered a book, the Strategic uh, Greek Bible you were speaking of. So I'm wondering, as a new beginner, as an Israelite Hebrew, would that be a good Bible to start off with, or by me being a new beginner, what book should I be reading, or the King James good enough?
You know, um, the first Bible I was introduced to was the King James Bible, and because of that, and because of the training that I've gone through and understanding the tools, because I've never really wanted to just read the Bible. I wanted to understand it, and I knew that to understand it, I had to dig a little deeper than just reading it on the surface. I was told that the King James was difficult to understand, and people tried to move me to the New International Version, which was my next Bible, and then of course the Thompson Chain, which was an NIV and King James, and then the Parallel Bible, and then the Amplified Bible, and pretty soon I got a bunch of different Bible versions. But my go-to Bible is the King James because that's what I study from, and that's where, if I want to get back to the Hebrew or back to the Greek, I have to have some kind of Bible that has tools. And it's no different than any other um, skill set. I am called to teach. I'm called to preach. And so if I'm going to be adequate at what I'm doing, I need to learn how to interpret the book. I need to try to get as close to the origin as I possibly can, knowing that I'm a flawed individual and prone to make mistakes and won't do everything perfect. But when I find a mistake is made, correct it. So when it comes down to, well, what Bible should you read from? I suggest to people learn the language of the King James Bible. Learn it. Don't buy it's hard to understand. I would even go as far as to say is don't try to read the Bible with understanding. Don't try to read it because the Bible is a spiritual book. It's got natural English, or the King James has got natural English words, but it's a spiritual book. In the natural, you're not going to understand it. The understanding has to come from the spirit in which it was written. And so instead of trying to read it with understanding, pray and ask Father to give you understanding. The understanding for me didn't come when I read it. There are things that I've read and read and read, and I still don't have understanding of. And one day, bam, I have read and read and read and read and read. And now, what I did is I was feeding. Now, I don't understand how food and nutrition and all that stuff works. I just know you eat certain things and your body pulls the nutrients and it allocates it to the body if you're eating the right stuff. What the body does to the physical food to allocate it to the right place, I believe the Spirit does when we read the Bible in order to allocate it and to give us understanding when we are ready. There's some things you can read and read. I remember when I read my first, when I was preparing for my first sermon, I must have read John chapter 3 100 times. Today, many, many, many years later, I read John chapter 3 and see things that I didn't see. Understanding comes with one's desire to please the Almighty. The more we desire to please Him, and the more we act on the understanding He gives us, the more understanding He gives us. It's no different than sowing and reaping or anything else that is supernatural, that if you're not faithful in the little, you will not be given more, and that which you've been given will be taken away. So I say to people, and the reason why, I'll tell you the reason why I say to people, read the King James. It doesn't matter if you get 15 other different Bibles. Read the King James. Study from the King James. And one day, you may not necessarily, you can read other translations of the Bible and see the words that have been put there by the translator, and at that moment say, that don't seem right. That doesn't feel right. And I'm going to tell you, it is those kinds of things. When I'm reading and it's like, that doesn't seem right, I know at that moment my spirit man is kicking in and saying, you need to search this out a little further. That's when I start pulling out the tools, my lexicon or my concordance or my dictionary. And I'm trying to see, okay, now I understand why that didn't seem right, because the word that is there, I interpreted or translated one way, but that was not the actual definition of the word when I look at its root. Don't be afraid of the King James. Read it. And don't necessarily try to understand it, because chances are you might not. But if you trust and depend on the Spirit to help you and to give you understanding, He'll give it to you. If your desire is to please the Almighty, and you've committed in your heart to love Him with all your heart, with all of your mind, with all of your strength, He wants you to be more successful than you will ever want to be. And He will give you the success in knowing and understanding Him the way He wants to be known as you delight yourself in Him. So whatever version you get, I say the King James. If you want to read other versions, read them. But then I would encourage everybody, if you don't have a Strong's Concordance, you need one. You need a good Bible dictionary. And a Strong's Concordance is a basic, because it doesn't necessarily go as deep as some of the other tools, but it's a good entry point. And all of us should get beyond just reading the Bible to searching the Scriptures. Don't approach it from an intellectual perspective, because people who approach the Bible from the intellect get intellectual understanding. That's good for debating. It's not good for living, because the people who do a lot of debating don't live it. And I'm not trying to debate with nobody. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. That's all I'm trying to do, is figure this thing out and help other people figure it out, because there's just way too much confusion, and people have confused me, and now I refuse to be confused anymore.
For more information, visit www.arthurbaileyministries.com or call 888-899-1479. This program is made possible through financial contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.